Good evening and welcome back to Apolla's Odyssey. It's another great night here on Aftermath FM. I really enjoy doing my Wednesdays on this platform. Also, to any of my listeners out there who are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, they're listening on Aftermath, please go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Apolla's Odyssey. It's so great to be on this platform. I actually just found out recently that, or last night, that my podcasts have been up on Spotify. So you can actually go on Spotify and play any of my past episodes. And that makes me really excited because I love listening to things on Spotify, and seeing my own show up there was pretty cool. So I'm pretty stoked about that. And yeah, so that's really awesome. So if you want to see any of my past shows, you can actually now go and look at them at any time and any place. And yeah, so I'm really stoked about that. And Crystal Love, I want to thank you for the super sticker. That is so awesome of you. Really appreciate it. So before I get into tonight's show with a special guest, Mike Bara, who I'm sure you have seen before on Ancient Aliens, and also he is a really amazing author, I want to promote my art because at this point I do not have any sponsors for my show. So what helps me promote my art, or what helps with my show, is promoting my art. So if you would like a uniquely handcrafted energy chilling device invented by yours truly, go to shamanspears.com. That is shamanspears.com. Shaman spears are all basically a mix between wands and spears. They're really a type of technology that I invented myself. They all have copper coils, crystals, and magnets I collect from sacred places around the world down the insides. I paint crop circles that have been found around the world outside them. And I never make any two the same. They're all 100% unique. This is what's left of my Odyssey collection. And I'm working on a new collection right now that is close to being complete. And it is really freaking cool. So if you want to get the Odyssey collection before they sell out, it's a good time to get it now because in a few days here, I'm going to be leaving for a couple weeks, leaving town for a couple weeks. So now would be a good time to get it before I leave. And then, of course, I'll be back to put in orders after that. Also, I have tons of Orgonite creations that I've made myself. And I have a few more Orgonite knives I need to get up here. So definitely need to get around to doing that. Those will probably be up at some point tomorrow or the following day. Also, they all have been autographed by yours truly. Some people have contacted me about getting my autograph, and this is a great way to do it. Just purchase a spear, and I have autographs all of my spears. So that's a great way to get my autograph and to support my show. Also, I have these really awesome I Believe in Humans t-shirts that have flying saucers on them, and I only made 30 of them. Each of them actually say on the side of the shirt 1 of 30, and it's really great t-shirt material. So it's not just like a crappy, website t-shirt. Like, this is actually like made by a designer. So and it has my show logo on the back. So at some point in the future, this might be worth a lot, who knows. It's the first shirt that I have made that promotes my show. And after those all sell out, then I will make a new collection. I'm actually planning on I'm really good at drawing, so I want to get a tablet and start graphic designing some like pinup alien anime type chicks, or like space chicks. So I'm really excited about that. I should be getting into that in the future here. So let's go ahead and bring the guest on. Hey Mike, how's it going?
Hey, good, Apolla. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's good to be here in the studio in LA, and it's probably gonna be my last day in the studio for a little while.
I know right where you are. I know right where you're sitting, and there's your baby Yoda that I tried to kidnap.
Yeah, you tried to kidnap my baby Yoda and hold him for ransom, but you didn't actually take him. I was actually planning on coming to the studio and finding my baby Yoda gone. But he was still
well,
here.
you weren't willing to pay the ransom, so that didn't go anywhere. I was gonna say, I had books when we were both at Disclosure Con in Sholo, and you had spears. I should have traded you some of my books for some of your one of your spears, so we could, you could have read some of my books by now.
Oh, we could have done that. We totally could have done that. Oh wow, thanks Crystal Love for the super sticker. That's amazing. Well, if you want to do that in the future, I would definitely like to read some of your books. So let me know what spear you want.
I have just the one for you. All right. Yeah, that sounds like a good trade. We'll do that. Sounds good.
Awesome. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I actually haven't read any of your books yet because I actually used to go to Adventures Unlimited all the time growing up. And I know that's Adventures Unlimited Press is where all of your books are published.
Well, most of them, yeah. There's a Dark Mission is actually Feral House, and the Choice is New Page Books. But yeah, other than that, everything else is pretty much on David's.
Oh, there you are, right there.
That's right.
This is the Adventures Unlimited Press website to those of you who are viewing right now. Adventures Unlimited is really incredible store that's run by David Childress, who's the producer of Ancient Aliens, I believe.
David Hatcher Childress, the guy who, I don't know.
That's a perfect impression.
Yeah, no, I somehow found his voice and got it really perfect, but it really irritates him when I do it in front of him.
There's always
I mean, just imagine David Hatcher Childress reading a dirty book or something. I think I've got to do some YouTube videos of that.
To me, what really stands out is the way he says kind. And Brad Olson says it too. It's some kind.
Could it be?
I don't even kind.
Some kind of alien from the sky?
But for real though, this place, Adventures Unlimited Press, it just so happens that it was the main publishing house is an hour outside my hometown in Peoria, Illinois, which is, by the way out in the middle of nowhere. So it's kind of random, but I grew up going to this bookstore, and it is the best bookstore.
Oh, you grew up there. Oh, well, no wonder you're into all this stuff because you got exposed to that at a young age. And David also has a store in Cottonwood, Arizona, right near Sedona. So you can go there too. And that's a great store. I've been there and did a book signing there. So.
Yeah, that was a lot smaller than the one outside my hometown. I checked that one out too. And I've been to the little secret clubhouses in both locations too. It's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. What's going on in there, I wonder?
Lots of Ancient Aliens artifacts, definitely.
Yep. Cool. So, what should we talk about?
You know, I really wanted to get into, your book, Aliens in Secret Societies. I felt like that would be a good topic because, that's just something that's always been interesting to me. I haven't read that book yet. That's definitely the one that I want to read first, but I've done a lot of research in that topic, and I feel that that's something that we can relate to the current world agendas that are at play right now. Right. So I think that would be a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people don't know me from my books. They know me from TV, from Ancient Aliens and Uncovering Aliens and Truth Behind the Moon Landing. And there's another one called UFOs, Uncovering the Truth. So I've been in 2 alien shows with the title, with Uncovering in the title. That's a little weird. And then other people only know me from my books and don't ever watch TV and don't even know that I'm on TV. So it's kind of a funny mishmash of stuff there. But the books are, to me, that they're difficult. I'd rather do TV, to be honest with you. But they're difficult because you have to, come up with your theory and then you write about it, and then you have to think of every way they could possibly attack it and try to counteract that. But Ancient Aliens and Secret Societies is a 2015 book, and it's interesting because what I learned when I first got into this business, checking into UFOs and aliens, I started working with a guy named Richard C. Hoagland, who, if you're over 60, is a very famous name in the UFO community, and used to do artifacts on other planets, ruins, pyramids on Mars, pyramids and glass structures on the moon and things like that. And I was working with him on that because, you know, I was an engineer originally and structural engineer, and all this stuff was structural. So I was like, okay, I can relate to this. And we had a very successful first book, Dark Mission. But one of the things that we uncovered as part of that process was that if you looked at NASA in the 1960s, the whole organization was dominated by members of secret societies. We basically broke it down into three groups, what we call the Nazis, obviously, the Werner von Braun crowd and Operation Paperclip and all that, which, by the way, Hoagland is pretty much the first guy to really expose back in the 1990s with Operation Paperclip. And then you had the Freemasons, who were very, very dominant at the top levels. You had guys, the project manager for Apollo, Mercury and Gemini, was a Freemason, who was the son of the head of the 33rd degree of the Scottish Rite in Washington, D.C., and all that stuff. And then you had what we call the magicians, who operated out in your neck of the woods, out in Pasadena at JPL, at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, who are all followers of Aleister Crowley. But when you got into it, when you got into the deep stuff, the deep dive on all these three secret societies, it all came back to the same thing. They all worshiped the ancient gods of Egypt: Osiris, Isis, Osiris, Horus, and Seth. And you know, there's a really popular movie out right now. Well, not that popular, but pretty popular, the Dune film. And Dune is nothing more. I mean, everybody's like, "Oh, Frank Herbert, he saw original." I'm like, it's the story of Isis and Osiris and Horus.
No way. Really?
Horus. Yeah, Leto is Osiris. Isis is Jessica, Paul is Horus, and Seth, the evil brother, is the Baron Harkonnen. So,
oh my gosh, I read the whole series last year. I never made that connection.
Yeah, it's nothing but that. If you go read that story, it's basically the same thing. And so, you know, these guys have had tremendous influence over our space program. And so this book was like, Ancient Aliens and Secret Societies, was about, well, where did this all start? Where did it all come from? And it really looks like that the belief system of all these groups, the Nazis, the Masons, and the magicians, was that the ancient gods of Egypt were extraterrestrials, that they were pure white Aryan, and they came from another planet, and they basically seeded the earth and repopulated the earth after the Great Flood, the Great Catastrophe, about 12,000 years ago. And that's their belief system. And that's what made them think that they have the right to rule over the earth, and what made them think they have the right to go to the moon and do a bunch of secret stuff and not tell anybody what they actually did there, which is the real secret of Apollo. Not that we faked it, which we did not, but that we went there and found a bunch of stuff and brought it back.
I figured that, because people always say like, oh, the photos were edited. I'm like, I think they were editing what was there. They were editing it out. It's not that, you know, it was faked. I almost feel like NASA itself or some other groups put out the conspiracy that was fake because people started realizing that the photos were edited.
Oh, you think that, do you? Oh, well, guess what? You're absolutely right about that, which we cover in Dark Mission. In reality, the rumor that we faked the moon landings was actually started by NASA within NASA. Even as Apollo 11 was coming back from the first moon landing, before they had even splashed down, Hoagland, my partner, my co-author, was a reporter, and he was in the JPL press room in Pasadena because they were gonna splash down in the Pacific and be recovered and come back to the West Coast. So he was in the JPL press room when the NASA administrator, the press administrator, walked this guy around who was handing out flyers that the whole thing had been faked in a movie studio in Nevada. Now, why would NASA be sponsoring that guy? You're dead right. Your instincts are good. They were sponsoring that guy because here's what they wanted. They wanted to put that cultural meme in that the moon landings had been faked. That's why it was in the James Bond movie, Diamonds Are Forever. They remember there's a scene where James Bond breaks into a movie studio in the middle of the desert in Nevada, and they're faking the moon landings, and he steals a moon buggy and drives away. All this around the same time, because they wanted everybody to associate conspiracies about the moon landings with this ridiculous theory that we faked it, which can be so easily discredited. It's not even worth writing 3 books about it, even though I did. 3 books discrediting it. To cover up the real conspiracy, which is that they went there looking for ancient alien technology, extraterrestrial artifacts, Anunnaki stuff that they found and brought back home. And we've even got pictures of some of the stuff that we're sure that they brought back home and reverse engineered.
What happened to the Egyptian gods and goddesses? I mean, were they here for a while and left, or did they, eventually die on this planet and leave like a lineage behind?
They were here for a while and left. They started killing each other. There were multiple wars, and their sons and daughters fought these wars over the course of almost 1,000 years after the Great Flood. And of course, there was the Younger Dryas impact events that really effed up the planet. Can I swear on this? Or no?
I don't think that's okay on the radio.
Yeah, okay. They had really messed up the planet, and it came down to basically Marduk, who was a son of Enki, Enlil, Isis, Osiris, and all these people, holed up in the Great Pyramid, fought things out, and finally launched nuclear weapons, which is the evil wind of the Bible, the radioactive fallout. And so before he left, he decided he was going to try to fix things by setting up this secret priesthood, which became ultimately the Knights Templar and then the Freemasons, with all of this ancient knowledge about Earth and humanity's true history. And he set that up with the idea to sort of fix his karma. He set it up with the idea that he would lead humanity into a better world. But instead, of course, Caesar and the Catholic Church discovered that absolute power and absolute knowledge corrupts absolutely, and decided to put us into an occult age for the last 2,000 years where everything's been hidden. And only now that we're breaking into this Aquarian reality is are things starting to break, and we're starting to get the truth about some things. Originally, was it actually kind of they did it for like good, with good intentions? They created these societies because like maybe they felt like the general population wouldn't know how to handle the information, like they couldn't understand the information. Yeah, that's exactly what they thought. So they thought they would set up this elite priesthood, but they would do things for the benefit of all mankind. Instead, they did it for the benefit of themselves. So originally, the purpose behind the secret societies was benevolent, and there are still some that are in the Freemasons and stuff that have benevolent intent, but there are others who do not. And they've basically, is it really a surprise that they stole our space program? They stole the last election. They've stolen all kinds of stuff. They're stealing from us now. They've stolen our money. So, is it a surprise that they would steal the space program? Not to my mind, anyway.
And we actually have a comment here from someone in regards to that. Deciphering my experience says, any thoughts on the activities of secret societies and UFOs down in Antarctica?
Well, I think I've actually covered this in another book called Hidden Agenda, which was my 2016 book, Antarctica, where there really was, Operation High Jump was a real thing. And they did apparently encounter something quite extraordinary down there because of the way Admiral Byrd talked about things after he got back. And there does seem to be some association with that. And remember that, the SS, the Nazis, they were a secret society. Von Braun was a major in the SS. He was a member of a secret society, and they do bizarre ritualistic things. Like, for instance, they landed on the moon on April 20th. Now, does anybody know, besides, what the significance of April 20th is, 420?
I have no idea.
Adolf Hitler's birthday.
Oh,
and
wow.
They did it with a lunar module called Orion. Now, in the Egyptian stellar religion, the constellation of Orion and the great god Osiris are one and the same. Mm-hmm. So they literally landed on Hitler's birthday on the moon. They landed the lunar module Osiris on the moon on Hitler's birthday. And guess what? The 3 belt stars of Orion were exactly 33 degrees above that landing site. That's the only place on the moon at that moment that they could have landed and had that stellar alignment going. And they did it because they think it gives them some sort of power. And this is the kind of stuff that we track that NASA's been doing forever. It's this ritualistic practice, which has actually helped me decode a lot of the stuff that's going on in the news in the world right now. Now, as to that stuff in Antarctica, yeah, it's pretty clear there were UFOs down there, but I can't really tell you much about which secret societies, other than it seems like the SS, the Nazis, are kind of in control down there in Antarctica.
Yeah. I heard it's a lot of our major corporations in the United States kind of have stations down there.
Yeah.
Um, I heard that from Michael Sala.
Well, that's true. That's what he thinks, and that's true. And I mean, all I can tell you is I have some psychic friends that I believe are the real deal. And when I ask them about Antarctica, they just tell me that is a dark, evil place, and there's a lot of evil down there, and you don't want to go there. And that's one of the reasons why they won't let anybody go there, because they would lose them. So it's a very controlled environment, and really it should be explored. I mean, think of all the natural. It's an untouched resource. Why are we not exploring more intensively? Why are we not going down there to look for the rare earths and the things like that we need to keep our modern cultural society going? Imagine the amount of oil that's probably under the ground there. And since there's nobody there, nothing but dirt and snow, ice, it seems to me it would be a great place to drill and not have to worry too much about the environment, right? All these issues that we have. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's definitely, Antarctica is just a very mysterious place. There's nothing we can say about it other than that.
Yeah, I definitely think there's something going on down there. In regards to the ritualistic practices you were talking about with these societies, do you think that these rituals they actually help them achieve some sort of metaphysical powers? Like I'm sure like maybe early on they were able to tap into this, but I'm wondering if they're still able to with these practices, or if now in the modern time it's just more something they do because it's been
Yeah,
passed down through all this
it's a rite
time.
that they go through. They think it gives them power. They think, I mean, all this icky human sacrifice stuff. I mean, a lot of the abortion stuff people say is human sacrifice, right? That's really what they're trying to do. That's why they push these political agendas through. And I know that they thought that having all these stellar alignments meant that they would be doing it under the auspices of their gods, which are Isis, Osiris, and Horus and Seth. So yeah, that's why they did it. Aleister Crowley, Crystal, thank you. That's why they did it. Whether it really makes a difference or not, I seriously doubt. At least it doesn't in the physics that we understand, although that's quite a bit different. The physics that we talk about is not the same as the physics of reality. But I don't see why you would have to have certain stellar alignments. They just did it, I think, because they were paying homage to their gods. I mean, if you look at what Neil Armstrong said when he stepped off the footpad of the LEM for the first time, that's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. And they've tried to say, oh, he made a mistake, or oh, he meant to say one small step for a man. But no, it makes sense in the context of that's one small step for man, for this current version of humanity, but a giant leap for all mankind, which is the Anunnaki and the other related human species that have been traveling through these parts for probably eons. So they do those things with deliberation. Absolutely.
Interesting. Do you think that these different extraterrestrials are they controlling these secret societies now? Because you said they left at a certain point and these societies were formed, but do you think that maybe some different races have some sort of control over what's going on the planet now and possibly affecting the agendas that are taking place now?
Well, that's a little above my pay grade, but I will say this. It's not one of the questions I really push, because I don't know how I'm going to get the answer. I like to ask questions I might be able to get the answer to. And I had a friend named Bob Dean, who, again, for people that used to listen to Coast back when Art Bell was the host before George Norrie came, was one of the most famous people in the UFO community. And he is a guy who was a command sergeant major at NATO headquarters in Brussels. One day, 2:00 in the morning, he's on an early listening post, and his colonel or his general says, hey, Dean, throws him a set of keys. Go open that locker over there. He opens the locker. He pulls out a book that's this tall. It's like 2 feet, 3 feet tall. And he says, start reading. And he opens it up, and it's the entire history of humanity's interaction with extraterrestrials. Okay, that's who Bob Dean is. Very famous guy. It's called The Assessment. and he left us about 5 or 6 years ago. But what he told me back when I used to hang around with him, 2009, 2010, he said, Mike, extraterrestrials are not in the government. Extraterrestrials are the government. There are extraterrestrials that have genetically modified themselves to be just like us, to look just like us at all levels of government. And they are paying attention to all this. And that he said that they were here to work to try to make this a better world for us, which quite honestly, guys, you're not doing a very good job. But that's what he told me. And I believe he had connections. I mean, he went to Brussels and he went to the Pentagon and had meetings, and he passed some of my books to these people. And so, he's a serious guy. He was a very serious guy.
This book he found, was it like a secret society, like a Freemason book, like from the Freemason library? Or
it was just it was the U.S. government's military assessment of extraterrestrials.
Oh, and wow.
Our entire history of interaction with them, how long they've been here, what we knew about them, what we believed to be true about them, whether or not they were hostile, that kind of thing. So,
it was interesting what you said about physics earlier, the physics that our science has an understanding of is not the true physics that we should be looking at. And I'm actually reading a book right now called The Three-Body Problem. It's really fascinating. It's actually a Chinese sci-fi novel that's like translated to English, and it's about the Chinese government seeking extraterrestrial intelligence. And in it, like they have like all these supposed documents that were like redacted from their government at one point, and it said that the United States had already been working with these ET races. And the whole book actually explains that it follows these like different scientists that were like at the top of like physics and the frontiers of science organizations in China, and they all found out, they started learning that the physics that they had been studying wasn't the true version of physics. What does that mean? Because I've been trying to wrap my mind around that as I've been reading this, and I mean, I don't really understand what that means. Like,
well, I wrote this book called The Choice in 2010, which I wrote for an audience exactly, what are you, about 27, 28, something like that?
Just turned 28.
Just turned 28. So I wrote it for an audience exactly like you. And it explains what came from what Hoagland called the monuments of Mars, which is these geometric arrangement of pyramids and the face on Mars and all these structures like the layout of the Egyptian pyramids or Teotihuacan. And within it, embedded within it, was a physics model that described higher dimensions, higher dimensional physics, hyperdimensional physics is what Hoagland called it. And the book is called The Choice, and I wrote it in 2010. And that'll be the first one I'll send you. I'll get you a copy of that. And because I explain everything in as non-technical language as I can, and basically what it says, what the theory is that, mass and gravity and things like that we all worry about in physics don't matter. Oh, it's a great book. Darren Roderick. Thank you. That those don't matter. What matters is spin energy, because everything in the universe, flat earthers, sorry guys, everything in the universe is spinning. And the planets with the most spin energy, like Mars and not Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus and Neptune. How do you, it used to be Uranus when I was a kid. Uranus and Neptune have the most spin energy, and therefore they have the most influence on the physics that happen here in the solar system. And to give you one example, the Pioneer mission and the Voyager mission that are way outside the solar system now, they think they're speeding up. And what I think is actually happening is that the speed of light is a little bit different outside the influence of all of these celestial bodies that are all spinning around than it is inside the solar system. So those fractional changes are having to do with the fact that all physics is local. And what that would mean is that the laws of physics are just a little bit different, say at a binary star system or a trinary star system, Zeta Reticuli, where the grays supposedly come from. Their laws of physics are going to be a little bit different than ours are here. The speed of light's going to be different. The effect of gravity is going to be slightly different. All these different things can be influenced. And at the core of it is that if you take something really big and you spin it, you're going to get energy. You're going to get energy from a higher dimension. You're going to get unlimited energy, and you're going to be able to translate that into electricity or electromagnetism or whatever force you need to make a flying saucer, to make a ship that can fly from here to Mars in 3 or 4 minutes, something like that. So that's the concept. That's the idea. That's what the book's about. And also, I relate it back to how it affects human consciousness. And it helped me basically predict all of this insane crap that's going on in our world right now.
Wow. And can you get into that? I mean, what did you predict? And, relating these agendas that are at play right now to, these secret societies and ancient aliens, I think there's definitely a connection there.
Well, what I said is that the secret societies are the old guard, and they are going whether they like it or not. Because what's happening is the rise. If you look at what I did is connected the astronomy and the astrology, saying that, yes, the positions of the planets actually affect the way human beings think, because they can affect electromagnetic waves. I gave many examples of electromagnetic waves being affected by the positions of the planet. There are scientific tests from the 50s and 60s that looked at that stuff. And every thought you've ever had is nothing but an electromagnetic wave, a signal. So if it can affect a radio signal, shortwave radio signal, it can affect your thoughts. And when you look at that and combine it with the astrological predictions, what you see is that during this opening, this period of the age of Aquarius, right, where it starts on December 21st, 2012, and doesn't end until 2024, what you're going to get is you're going to get a tremendous transition into what I call the global sovereignty movement, where the individual is going to demand total control and autonomy over themselves, over their bodies, over their choices, over everything. That's why I called it the choice, partially. So, and everybody is going to be forced into polarization at this time. They're going to be forced to take a side. And that's exactly what we see happening. And then at the end, I said, things are going to get really weird.
So
things
you're
are
saying
going to get weird. Politics is going to get weird. Banking's going to get weird. And we're really at the brink of all that right now.
So you're saying people can choose to move into the new energy, or they're going to stay with the old energy and, the old systems that are just not working?
That's what we're doing. That's what we're going through right now. That's everything that's happening. And, the only thing I didn't say was something like, oh, and you'll have something really weird happen, like Donald Trump will become president. I wish I'd said that, but that wasn't really at the top of it. So, yeah. It's
I actually had this really wild vision when I was probably around 2012. I think it was the year 2012 or right before that. And I've never experienced anything like this before. And it was like, I was, not here. I had left my body, and it was like the universe or God or something was talking to me and explaining things to me, but telepathically. And it showed all these souls going through the universe, and there was this veil. And when they came to this veil, some of them changed and went on, they went through it. And then some of them just kind of stayed the same and fell away. And I was like, what does this mean? And it told me, and I was like, well, will I be one of the ones that change and go on? And it said, if you choose to. Yeah. And this was before I found out about the human consciousness shift and, a lot of this stuff. So it was really interesting.
It's an interesting dream. And it's also interesting because, everybody, one of the things I talked about in the book was the word apocalypse, right? Everybody thinks 2012 is going to be an apocalypse. But what does that word actually mean? People think it means catastrophe, disaster, the end of everything. Doesn't. The word actually means to lift the veil.
Really?
It means to reveal the truth. And it's from the revelation of the truth, which is what we're going through right now. New Kennedy documents, inspired me to write my Kennedy book and things like that, which is right there. Ancient Aliens and JFK. the truth is coming out, and that's what's going to bring down all of our governmental and monetary hierarchies and structures. They're all going to come collapsing down, and there's nothing that any of these old school people can do to stop it. They think they can, they're going to try, but it's all going to come crashing down. And look at it. Look everywhere around the world. Look at the Hong Kong protests. Look at France, look at Hungary, look at Poland, look at England, look at Ireland. And the only place we really haven't had that yet is the United States. And, we're what's going to tip the scales in the end. Because when we take to the streets, that's when it's going to be over. The old game is going to be over.
Definitely. It's been interesting to see all this play out in the last 10 years or so. And it's like people they keep like expecting the old systems to work, and I keep saying it's like this new energy, it's not going to work that way. And this new energy, and I actually talk about this a lot in my solutions for humanity presentation I do, and I hope there's a way that we can, at least the people who want to change and go on, so to say, can figure out how to do a smooth transition into a new way of society. And I try to look at what that means, like what would a way of living life in a society that goes the best with this kind of energy, like what would that look like?
Well, I think you'd have a lot more automation to do a lot more of the jobs that most of us don't want to do. I mean, they do have automated sushi bars now, where computers make sushi, because you're going to free up people to do more of the things they want to do, to create art and that kind of stuff. So it's, to me, that's what it looks like. And also a lot more financial equity than we have right now. Everything is so imbalanced because these few demons, these demonic people that have been in charge of our governments and our financial system for hundreds, if not thousands of years, have been, skewing everything towards themselves. And that's all going to fall away. We're going to have an asset-backed currency. We're going to have gold and silver, and the labor of your people. And all these things are going to be considered assets that are going to have a monetary value. And so all the currencies around the world are going to become much more even. And you're going to have a lot less human suffering. You're going to have a lot more. There's a lot of medical breakthroughs out there that have never been revealed that are going to get revealed.
Like the light frequency devices.
Yes, exactly. And people are going to, be living a lot longer. And if that's the case, in order to keep the planet from becoming overpopulated, we're going to have to expand into space. So, it looks like we're headed to the Star Trek future.
Yeah. My last presentation.
Not the current Star Trek, but more like the original Star Trek.
Yeah. My last presentation I just gave, I did a whole new section on space habitats, and that concept is like really, really fascinating to me, because it's interesting because I looked into every different kind of space habitat that is out there, every type of concept that's out there. And it's interesting because they were all originally created by sci-fi authors for the most part, the concept of them. But then people that work for like NASA and like Blue Origin and they actually like looked into them and realized that they were possible, and they're working on them. I know Jeff Bezos is actually working with Blue Origin. They're working on one that I forget which one it was called, but it's the one where it's like a ring and they actually have a whole environment inside of the ring. And that's really wild to me that, it's like these people that are creators can come up with a concept, and it actually originally comes from them. And then the scientists end up realizing like, hey, we can do this.
Yeah, the best example of that is the satellites. Arthur C. Clarke, science fiction author, said, hey, why don't we just bounce TV signals off of orbiting satellites in geosynchronous orbit, and we can have TV all over the world? And kaboom, they did it. And he basically invented the concept of the of satellite radio and TV transmission. And here we are. I mean, it revolutionized the world back in the 1970s. So and the ring world is an idea. Ring world's a little complicated from an engineering standpoint, but again, Apolla, the thing that's the key to all of these ideas, Dyson spheres and ring worlds and all that, is energy. You have to have enough energy to manipulate matter on a scale of the size of something like ring world.
Well, I
or
believe that's where asteroid mining comes in.
Well, it is, but also way more than that. Hyperdimensional physics, spin stuff, spin energy, having devices that can give you the energy you need to mine those asteroids, chop them up like the big planet killer thing from Star Trek, and then mold them into a functioning space base.
So that would be moving. You're talking about harnessing the cosmic energy. So that would be moving to a type 3 civilization. We're not even at the type 1 civilization right now. And that's something else I'm reading in the book I'm reading right now. It's really fascinating because they get into that. And I'd heard about, that whole concept, but I hadn't really got into it as much before. And
publicly we're not, but have we already discovered these technologies? I mean, the thing Hoagland and I used to talk about is on this hyperdimensional physics stuff, like I talk about in The Choice, we can't be the only ones who figured this out. Somebody else must have figured it out. Somebody else has got to be smarter than us. That's the scary thing, is what if we're the smartest guys on the block? But if they have, then the technologies already exist to go do these things. Now we just have to go do them. And we also have to bring the culture along slowly, because it's going to be a complete shift in our way of thinking. Like you said earlier, we can't do that overnight. We can't just instantaneously change it. It would be too shocking. So we have to slowly work our way up to that over the course of maybe, I don't know, a couple of generations, maybe as much as 100 years. But in 100 years, we should be, Star Trekking around this part of the galaxy, no problem.
That's something I think about. That's something I think about a lot is, just like, the way we would perceive the world if we could go from LA to New York in 5 minutes. Like I've heard they're already working. They already have blueprints for a plane that can do that. Or it was 15 minutes, I believe. And I feel that we will see the world so much differently when that happens. And I don't think people have really wrapped their mind around that. And, once we start harvesting energy in a different way and becoming at least like a type 1, type 2 civilization, it's going to be a completely different perception of reality than we have now. And I think that's really fascinating. I mean, we couldn't even...
It would be like, hey, Apolla, I know a great restaurant in Karachi. Want to go to dinner in Karachi tonight? And we both get into our little planes and we shoot off and we meet there and we go have dinner. It's like, that's the future we're talking about. Exactly.
Yeah. That's so fascinating. And I think, my mic keeps cutting out. Harvesting these different energy, like I feel like these elites, so to say, that, billionaire, trillionaire type people, if they already have these technologies, why would they care if the rest of us have it? Like I've talked to someone about this before, and it's like, I mean, couldn't they already like have had scientists build ships for them or whatever, and they're just already doing it and they just don't care about the rest of us?
Well, it's part of the show. It's part of bringing the culture along slowly so you don't shock people too dramatically. Like there's some people that think that when we get done with the currency reset, the financial reset, that, there's going to be so much money that we're just going to go do whatever we want. And if we have unlimited energy, we can do anything we want. But I don't think the culture is ready for that society yet. I think they tried that with the stimulus bills. They found out a lot of people just stayed home and played video games. They didn't go out and create. It's not like, oh, now I'm free to be an artist. I'm going to go make those spears, Most people don't do that. They just sat around and played video games. So it's going to take us a while to evolve the culture to the point that everybody will be, feel free to seek their desire in life and what they're good at and their life purpose. That's the hardest thing for people to do, I think, is sort out what their life purpose really is.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to like these secret societies in the New World Order, they say like there's this whole agenda that they only want a certain number of people on the planet to stay in perpetual balance with nature. And it's like, well, why don't we become a spacefaring civilization then? Like we could have space habitats or space stations just up in our atmosphere, and we could be living up there and not even have to deal with cataclysms on the planet.
Yeah, and that's the Georgia Guidestones, which, by the way, were created by Ted Turner, who was a complete nutcase. and 500 million people in perpetual balance with nature. They just want 500 million because it's an easier number to, for them to control than 11 billion. But the planet can easily sustain 11 billion people without any environmental damage whatsoever. And we're only at 7 or 8 now, and we got quite a ways to go. And, you're right. The answer is the Star Trek scenario where if you're going to go with capitalism requires growth, and capitalism is the most just, fair system ever invented. You have to grow out into the solar system, the whole expanse kind of thing to start with, and then we're on to Star Trek when we get warp drive. So
awesome. Well, I hope that happens in my lifetime. I'm hoping that happens.
I think it will.
Yeah.
Leon the Wise, there's no such thing as dark matter, so don't worry about dark matter.
Yeah. So, we got about 14 minutes left of tonight's show. So, I mean, I don't know how we should wrap this up. I mean, maybe relating it to, I don't want to say, the shots, what do you think? Does that have something to do with all of this, with these secret societies? And we got to be careful with the way we say the words, but the shots, like, what do you think about all of that? Is there an agenda at play with that that's possibly an ET agenda?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you've read the Bible, if you've read the book of Revelation, it talks about the mark of the beast. That's what this is, quite clearly. They're trying to play this out. They're trying to fulfill these destinies. You have to remember, it's really hard 25 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago. It was really hard for people to get next to the concept of aliens, right? Now you got the X-Files, you've got all these mainstream shows, you got all these TV shows that I do about aliens. I think pretty much everybody's like, yeah, there's probably aliens. But convincing people that the vast majority of your government is demonic, that there are people possessed by demons and dark forces on this planet, which may be alien or extraterrestrial, or may be from the earth, satanic. They may be that's hard. And that is true. So we have this very, very negative influence of secrecy and secret societies, which John F. Kennedy spoke against, one of the first speeches he ever gave. And he went to the press and he said, I need your help. It's called The President and the Press. And it's in my book about John F. Kennedy, aliens and ancient aliens and JFK, and said, I need your help if we're going to defeat this evil. He spoke about it openly. And instead, what happened is they killed him, and then they co-opted the media. And so now we have to create our own completely new media, which we're doing here. Unfortunately, we're having to use their technology, but I think that's going to change too, especially with the new Trump media platform that's coming out. It sounds like we're going to have freedom again. So freedom to speak.
I think that comes to using different servers. Like we need some sort of company that has servers that are, freedom of speech servers, I guess, because right now it's like people can create these platforms and, they still have to use these servers that are owned by Google and Amazon.
Well, there's a completely new internet coming that's not controlled by these people. And it's going to be, the switch is going to be flipped on them overnight. Lights are going to go out, lights are going to come back on, and we're going to be in the new internet, and the old internet is going to cease to exist. And then that will be, the ants have escaped from the anthill and they're going everywhere. And that's us with our freedom. We're going to go wherever we want. And that's what's going to happen, I think, very soon. I would be shocked if we go another year before that happens. So to answer your question, yeah, the jab is part of this agenda to weaken us, to humanize us, control us, and make us less rebellious. Sorry.
So you think it affects, people's minds, or?
Oh yeah, certainly it could. It certainly affects their bodies. We know that. I mean, we look at all the examples. It's a horrible thing, and I'm never going to allow them to do it to me, put it into me for any reason. And we need to support each other and help each other and make sure that we can continue to maintain our own economy until such time as somebody hopefully steps in to give us a little assistance. Hopefully that's very soon. Abe Froman, it's a new internet. There's already a 6G internet, military internet that already exists. It's going to use the Starlink satellites. There's part of it is called not Project Starlink, but Project Star something that Musk is involved in, and it's going to be a completely new. It's a parallel internet that's nothing like this one.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yep.
Well, you know, people always like to preach all this doom and gloom, and I mean, it definitely is really wild the way that the world has been going over even the past couple years alone. But you know, I think we have all these positive things that are happening, and I think, you know, like you were saying earlier, it's like all this darkness has to be come to the surface so that it can be cleared out, and you know, that's what we're seeing right now. And you know, it's really interesting. It's an interesting time to be in.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, James Pruitt, a quantum internet. And guys, we're having kind of a dark matter debate. Let me just, it's in the book, The Choice, but let me just do it. And also you can look for me on my YouTube channel has been taken down. I got a couple of backup channels now, but I think you can go to my Odyssey and look for some old lectures I did on The Choice. And back in 2010, 2011. And here's the idea, okay? Dark matter comes from the fact that when they looked at stars and planets and galaxies, there wasn't enough stuff to hold everything together, because their idea is that gravity comes from mass. Well, if there's not enough mass in a galaxy to keep it from flying apart, what's keeping it from flying apart? And so they decided in their genius, the engineers, they decided in their genius, or the physicists, oh, well, it must really be there. It's just invisible. So we'll start looking for invisible matter, which of course is utterly ridiculous. What's really going on is that right now they say that there's 4 forces in the universe. There's electromagnetism, strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force, and what's the other force? Sorry, Apolla.
Gravity?
Anyway, but there is a 5th force in the universe, which Einstein studied and then gave up on, called torsion. And torsion is this spinning, roiling motion that you see everything in the universe behaving according to those rules. And he got stuck in something called static torsion, which did not generate enough power to control things. But what he didn't study was something called dynamic torsion. There's a guy named Kozyrev who did a whole bunch of great research. This is all in Choice, and David Wilcock covered a bunch of this stuff back in the day, who understood that dynamic torsion was the undiscovered 5th force in the universe. That's why when you shoot something in space in a straight line and there's no influence on it, there's no magnetism, there's no static electricity, there's no gravity, it bends, its course bends. Einstein decided, oh, well, space must be curved. Well, that's idiotic. What's happening is that there's another force that's being generated by the rotation of the object that is tugging on it. And that's what we're talking about. So there is no dark matter. Dark matter is just their attempt to patch up a really awful theory that just doesn't work.
I've heard flat earthers use that theory to back up why planets look around through the telescope. They said that light bends. Matter. So, well, they said that light bends, so that's why the planets look round.
Well, light does bend. It can be bent. But here's the other thing, Apolla. I was just thinking about this the other day when I was watching the dumbest flat earth video I've ever seen that a friend sent. A friend in Australia sent it to me as the dumbest flat earth video I have ever seen. And nobody knows what light is. Everybody assumes that light propagates, but nobody can prove that light propagates because nobody knows what light is. Ooh, who's Renee Cruz and is she single? Nobody knows what it is. Oh, there's photons. Really? Show me a photon. You can't show me a photon. It doesn't exist. It's nonsense. You know, what's gravity? Oh, well, there's particles called gravitons. No, it's gravity's a wave. Anyway, there's just, the thing is, there's so many assumptions that are made.
That's crazy.
Really
I never really thought about
yeah.
that before,
I
about
mean,
light. I feel like my brain is like short-circuiting right now.
yeah. What is light?
What?
Nobody knows what the hell light is. We just know that it exists and we can use it and we can generate it. But are we generating it, or are we just opening up a little portal to the fifth dimension where energy is coming through and it expresses itself in this physical reality as light? I don't know.
Wow. That's crazy. Oh my
Let's
gosh.
all get together on 420 and I'll give a lecture and you'll watch you guys go like, whoa.
Hey, I'm down. If you want to do that, I'll schedule it right now. We'll do a 420 show. I actually kind of stopped smoking a couple years ago, but I would be down to.
Well, good for you, because it
take that for
melts
a
your
day.
brain ultimately. So that's good.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it. It was for me. I was just, I was smoking too much. My lungs were getting messed up. So yeah, I do. I definitely feel better when my mind is clear too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
So we have about 3 minutes left. So wrapping this up here, this has been a really awesome conversation and really enjoyed having you on. Would you like to tell everyone, where to find you, if you have websites, any new books coming out?
Well, I don't have any new books coming out because I was going to write one called Ancient Aliens and the Deep State was going to be my next book, but I can't write that book because I don't know how it's going to end yet. We're still waiting to see how it ends because we don't know who's going to win this war that we're in right now, in the midst of. You can go to mikebara.blogspot.com. I think if you just type Mike Bara into Google, that's the first site that comes up. That's my blog site. It has links to my daily radio show, which is Real News Live, that I do Monday through Friday with Blake Wally and my wonderful remote viewing friend, Jennifer Falah-Doring, who is great to have. She's on Mondays and Fridays. Casey Jones helps us out. It's a great show where we just kind of break down the news. Today's episode was great. We had Steve Doran on talking about the Alec Baldwin shooting and all of the stuff going on with that and what goes on movie sets. And then you can go to Rumble, Real News Live on Rumble. That's actually what's reflected through on the blog spot, but you can go to my blog, just jump on that and go to Rumble, open up a Rumble account if you don't have one, sign up, follow Real News Live. That'll help us a lot. And then the books are just all available on either the Adventures Unlimited Press website that you showed, or just go to Amazon, or on the blog. I have links to most all of my books. I think I have 8 books out now. Haven't written one in a couple of years. And you can usually find me on repeats of Ancient Aliens on Fridays and Saturdays, and a lot of times during the week on other shows that have come up. And do go watch Truth Behind the Moon Landings. That's a really good show for a Sci-Fi Channel. Yeah, there we go. Dark Mission's the first book. Ancient Aliens and JFK. The Triangle. Black People Invented Everything. I did not write that.
That was just thrown in there?
Not one of my books.
That's so random. Why would they throw that in there?
I don't know. And then The Choice, which is what we've talked mostly about tonight. I'll get you a copy of The Choice, Apolla. I'll drop it in the mail.
I'm excited to read that. That's awesome.
It'll be a good one. And so that's how you get the stuff. And best thing is to come watch the news show. We talk about everything going on in the world right now. And I think it's really important, while we still have a chance here, to tell people that what The Choice says is what seems to be happening, which is that things are going to get very chaotic and very uncomfortable. And, penicillin shot sometimes is really uncomfortable, but sometimes you need it. And I think that what we're going to go through in the next few months is likely to be very uncomfortable, but I'm hoping and praying, like everybody else, that we come out the end of it on top and with moving into this new world that we all hope we can create.
I hope so too. Thanks so much for coming on, Mike. And everyone, please go ahead and check out my Shaman Spear store if you want to help keep my show going. That's the main way. I fund myself right now. So go to shamanspears.com if you want to help me out. And thanks everyone for joining tonight. If you're listening in on Aftermath, please go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And everyone that's on my YouTube channel, please go ahead and check out Aftermath. Oh, and we just ended on Aftermath. I'm having issues with ending my show properly on the radio. It's so difficult. But yeah, so thanks so much for being here, Mike. And
Sure.
Let's do this again sometime. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me.
All right. See you later. And thanks, everyone. Until next time on Apollo's Odyssey. Over and out.